Kia ora, everybody. I'm going to see if I can beat that bell. Okay, here we go. I'm Malcolm Wright. I work at Tamaki, Oranga, which is a mental health unit in Otara. I've been there for 6 years now. What is Tamaki, Oranga? A lot of my colleagues who work in mental health are unaware of where we are and what we do. We're a small 20-bed unit in Beds Road, opposite the DB Brewery. That's usually the landmark we give to people. And we work with men who have high and complex needs, mostly with schizophrenia, dealing with the difficulties that comes with schizophrenia. Why did I conduct the study? Well, I kind of didn't plan to conduct the study. The study happened, and then afterwards I realized, well, here's a piece of research that had kind of happened by accident more than design. And it was sort of two years down the line, I saw the statistics, and it kind of looked a certain way, and somebody said to me, that looks like research that you're doing. And I'm not a researcher, I'm not an academic, I do the work. And so we were picking up at the unit that a lot of the guys were struggling particularly with memory issues, and coming to us with referrals would say non-compliant with their medication, doesn't pitch up to doctor's appointments, amongst other things. And I was just thinking, one of the points that was made was the cancer patients, the mental health cancer patients not being compliant. It had a lot to do with memory, and we were trying to get an understanding of it as well. The other thing on the floor, in the unit itself, I, like a lot of the other people that I work with, we were being frustrated. The guys would come to me at the beginning of the shift and say, how about you taking me to the bank this morning? And I'd go to the shift coordinator and say, is it okay if I take Jimmy to the bank this morning? And they say, no, we've told him 1,000 times, we've got to get the guys to their doctor's appointments first and then to the Mental Health Act hearings, and when that's done, we'll see what transport there is. And 10 minutes later, I'd bump into social work, and she'd say, yeah, Jimmy's just asked me if I can take him to the bank. Nobody wants to do this for him. What can we do about it? And it was about being told the same thing over and over. And some of us were thinking, are the guys trying to split the team, work one person, play one up against the other? But it wasn't. It was about memory. It was one thing to say that the person was forgetful, but we needed something more than that. So we also were hearing stories from families, family members as well, that they were frustrated as well. And it was causing embarrassment and shame in some instances. We've got this family member that's got this mental health issue, but they really just can't get it together. They're not doing this, not doing that. So there's a range of reasons why we were focusing on things like memory and attention. The tool, my former manager sitting over there, Paul Sheridan, handed me this thing one day and said, can you use this? Can you make use of this? I'd seen it during my training. It wasn't something that I'd used much before. The repeatable battery for assessment of neuropsychological status. And I kind of flipped through it and looked quite simplistic. I administered one or two and we looked at it, and voila, we got this pattern. Well, there was it showed us certain things, and looked at the literature. Yes, it was a valid, a tool that was sensitive to the things that we were struggling with, and it kind of made sense. And I took it along to our handover meeting. And one of the nurses says, what are you doing over there? Well, said, I've been doing this test, and do you know what it says? It says that Jimmy's got real definite problems with memory. And after that, people would see me going into our whare where I do the testing. And the minute I'd come out, they'd say, so what did it say? What did it say? Well, I'd go and have to score it and look at get the proper scoring and do it properly. And what we found is that it was saying what we knew already, but giving us an evidence-based tool with which to do this. So it started becoming an integral part of our assessment. We do the psychosocial assessments. We also do things using the wedged and stuff, but the R-bands is probably one of my main tools that I use. The other thing is, because it's short, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. It's cheap. It takes a half an hour to administer plus minus, and about 20 minutes to score it, and then share the results with the team. So it's not a very time-consuming or clumsy tool to use. And so it has now become part of what we do at the unit. So the research in brief, just in a nutshell. our bands died, it was after about 2 years I kind of looked at all the sort of scores that I'd got, and we really definitely were seeing a pattern that was emerging, and that there was a consistency, and that the pattern was similar when I looked at the stuff that had been done elsewhere in the world, regardless of where it was, whether it was Armenia or China or Latin America, wherever this instrument's used, and even where it's been translated into other languages, we see they were getting similar sort of results. What did these results look like? Where the norm would be 100, and I'd expect that if we did it here in this room, most of us, we'd get around 100, or it would be a flat score. We'd get, if your functioning was around 100, if all the scores would be similar. With the guys that we work with, we were getting this score, particularly immediate memory that was impaired, attention, and understandably with the psychotic illness, attention, and then also delayed memory. Oh gosh, what's happened there? When we put it onto a graph, very simplistic graph, it looked like this. And we started talking about it as being the Tamaki Oranga pyramid, because we got the same kind of pattern almost repeatedly. And one of the things that anecdotally we started doing is that when we didn't get a Tamaki Oranga pyramid, it raised the questions about what else was going on for this person. And almost always, there was something else going on. There was a severe head trauma. There was a chronic drug problem. And in some instances, there was another diagnosis. There was something like bipolar or a mood disorder that was overriding everything else. So it alerted us to the fact that we needed to look at other things. Were there differences noted in impairments across different ethnicities? And obviously, with our commitment in counties to the Treaty of Waitangi and our commitment to different other cultural differences within our population in South Auckland, the question arose, are there differences or are they the same? Not a very nice, easy graph table, but yes, we got the same. I've done a breakdown, and this was done more recently than the original research that I did, because that was done after 2 years. I've continued doing it, and we continue to get the same pattern, and we continue to get the similarities regardless of ethnicity. So the ongoing use, it's providing us now with a scientific basis and an evidence basis for what we do. There's evidence for the care plans that we develop, for the discharge plans, for our relapse prevention plans. It's based on scientific evidence. We've got something to back it up. We've got international research that's consistent with our own to back up what we do. And it continues to be an integral part of the assessment at intake. Since then, it's doubled. I've got about 120 now in my sample group. So we're beginning to get quite a valid, statistically valid sample group for New Zealand, for the particular population group that I'm working with, and for the country as a whole. So people elsewhere can have a look at what's happening in our part of the world. And I'm thinking about other developing countries in the Pacific Rim. If we look at countries like oof, gosh, you beat me. Okay, so the way forward, this is the last one. So we, basically it's about, we've also, Melody sitting over there, we're working on a cognitive remediation program. It's one of the instruments that we're plan to use with our assessment for that, one of them. The other thing is that it's part of the basis of our ongoing efforts to improve the quality of service that we deliver here in Counties Manukau for our the people that we serve, and hopefully helps to improve the mental health and quality of life of the service users in their whānau. Kia ora, thank you. Made it. It absolutely, it's, when we break it down, there's almost a negligible. And the lower we go with the R-band scores, when we get down to scores, so anything sort of below 70, like the IQ score, the standard deviation, below 70 it sort of starts raising alerts. We need to look at this again. There's something going on here. But what I've found as well is the scores 70 and below, if we've got 10 or 15, even though it's a standard deviation, there's not much difference. So if we get a language score for one person of a language score of 60 and another one of 50, they're down there. This is an area of concern. So where we've got those variations, it's not something that I get too fussed about. And in that breakdown, we've got that kind of variation. It's insignificant. It's big picture. We look at the big picture with this. Thank you. Kia ora.